Welcome back to the Anfield Exchange, and it looks like the dominoes are falling into place in the Alexander Isak saga. So, Newcastle last night had a bid accepted for Nick Woltermaid, German international, a very good up-and-coming player. He's been playing well in the German league, in the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich have had a few bids rejected. I believe that Woltermaid wanted first-team football and he couldn't be guaranteed that at Bayern Munich, and that's why he's made the decision to leave and join Newcastle. Now, this is not a Callum Wilson replacement. This is an Alexander Isak replacement. We've been told that once this deal gets over the line, which we believe it really is there, that Alexander Isak will have the green light to move to Liverpool. Now, obviously, it depends on what Liverpool are going to bid. We can't go in with 120 million. We know that. I believe a bid of around 130 plus maybe 10 million in add-ons. I think 140 million gets this deal over the line, and Liverpool need it. We need that strength in depth, in attack. We've looked short basically all pre-season, from the beginning of the season. Obviously, we've let Nunes go, we've let Diaz go, obviously the tragic passing of Diogo Jota, and it's about time that this deal gets done now. I think what Liverpool have been waiting for, and they've played it well, they've been patient with this one. They've waited for Newcastle to bring in a replacement. Now, Newcastle have struggled with this. They've had bids for João Pedro, Benjamin Sesko, Visser, Strand Larson. I think there's more as well, but they've basically been in for every striker on the planet, and now we've finally got the man in Nick Woltermaid. He's a good player. Like I say, he has been doing well in Germany. He's young. I think we're looking at him as he could develop into a similar level of player as Alexander Isak, but it's fantastic news for Liverpool. If this deal gets done, we believe there's going to be a bidding coming today. If this deal gets done before deadline day, I mean, look, if it gets done sooner, we might even have him on the bench against Arsenal. He won't be in a position to play. He hasn't had a proper pre-season anyway. He's obviously been training alone. So he hasn't had a pre-season. He needs to get up to match speed. Similar to what Chiesa was last year, he missed the pre-season. He came in and it took him a while to get going. Obviously, he didn't get the opportunities that Isak's going to get, but it will take him a little bit of time to get into the swing of things. I think the international break coming up will definitely help. He'll go away, he'll play some minutes for Sweden. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a full 90 minutes, and hopefully he can come back to Liverpool in a condition to start playing for us. But yeah, massive news. I'm still a little bit sceptical of the attack. I think we're probably still one more short. And at centre back, we believe there's more to come from Mark Guehi. We believe that Liverpool were willing to offer 40 million, which should be accepted by Crystal Palace. But again, time will tell on that. But Alexander Isak is going to be a Liverpool player. A lot of noise from the Newcastle fans. I've seen it myself on social media. Before obviously the Woltermaid deal was done, there was a lot of Newcastle saying, we're not going to sell him to you unless you pay the 150 million. He's our player, let him rot in the reserves. We saw that, we all saw it. And now I'm seeing more and more, certainly last night, after the announcement of a Woltermaid deal was done, where they're basically saying, well, he's an injury prone, you'll get 60 minutes out of him. He's not all that. Woltermaid's going to score more than Alexander Isak. Look, Liverpool know we're getting a top player in Alexander Isak. I would say one of the best in the world. I would say barring probably Haaland, potentially Mbappe. I don't think there's anyone better than Alexander Isak in the striker position, to be honest. Alexander Isak is probably the best fit for Liverpool in the way that I don't think Mbappe presses the way that Isak will, and Haaland's more of a in-the-box, finisher chances. If he doesn't do that, he's not getting involved in the game. Alexander Isak's going to get involved in the game. He's like the finished article of Hugo Ekitike. Now, the problem you've got is you don't want to stifle Hugo Ekitike's progress as well, and the way he's developing for the club. So you need to play both of these players. I don't believe that Ekitike will be a backup to Isak. I don't believe that's going to happen. Arne Slot will have had conversations with Hugo Ekitike and explained to him how he sees his role within the squad. And he's done very well for Liverpool in the start of his career. He's played free, he's scored free, he's looked fantastic. He's looked like probably our best player in the game so far. He will start against Arsenal. But yeah, I think Arne Slot has a job on his hands now. He has a job on his hands trying to figure out how to get both of them into the squad. If even he's going to do that, you play with two attackers. I don't know what his plans are, because you can't play with two attackers, your wingers, and Florian Wirtz in behind. I can't see any way that happens, because the only way you do that, you're dropping either Gravenberch or McAllister. So it doesn't. I'm struggling to see. Maybe he'll use Ekitike out on the left. Again, for me, I'm unconvinced by that. But then I go back to when Arsenal signed Thierry Henry, and Arsene Wenger put him on the left wing to start with, so that he could get an understanding of what a winger's thought process was, and where they're going to put the ball, and when they're going to cross the ball. And it gave him that edge when it came to putting him as a striker, because he'd played in that position on the wing. He knew where the ball was going to come in. He knew when it was going to come in. He knew where to be as a striker. And I'm sure that enhanced his game as a striker. Maybe Arne Slot's thinking something along those lines. But then you've got Cody Gakpo out there, who, for me personally, I see he's getting a lot of stick on social media even now. And he's got, I think, 3 assists and a goal in 2 Premier League games. So yeah, I think Cody Gakpo is very underrated, if I'm honest. I think he's one of those players, I've said it before, where you're guaranteed to get an 8 out of 10. So I don't think necessarily you can just drop Gakpo and put Hugo Ekitike on the left. It just doesn't make sense to me. But that being said, you do need 2 strikers. I would like to see them both on the pitch, but Alexander Isak is one of the best strikers in the world, and you're not going to not play him when he's available. So yeah, it's frustrating. If I'm in Hugo Ekitike's position, I'm probably also a little bit frustrated. We saw a little bit of it again. I think it was Bournemouth when he scored the goal, and he ran to the fans and he was sort of doing that. Was that a message of you're giving all this talk, but you don't need Alexander Isak? You've got me, Hugo Ekitike. Was that what that message was? I don't know. There was a lot of talk going on at the time. And yeah, I think in terms of the way Newcastle have played this, I think it wouldn't surprise me if this deal has been pretty much done for a long time now. I think it's all been a PR exercise where Newcastle are trying to play Alexander Isak as a bad guy, and especially the other night when we played Newcastle at St James's Park, and the Saudis and the director or whatever he is was allegedly over at Alexander Isak's house, trying to convince him to come back and integrate with the team. I think there's an aspect of, like I say, from a PR point of view, Newcastle have to appear that they've done everything they possibly can to keep Alexander Isak, to reintegrate Alexander Isak. I think that's why you've seen this influx on social media of fans who have jumped on the bandwagon saying, yep, we'll only sell for 150. If you don't pay it, we'll keep him. He'll sit in the reserves. Look, I understand there's an element of pride, and these guys have egos, but equally they're businessmen, and I think that comes first. So I've maintained throughout the whole saga that it doesn't make sense for the Saudis and Newcastle to keep hold of Alexander Isak. The reason being is you've got a valuable asset there that if Alexander Isak has maintained his stance that he's not going to play for Newcastle again, you can't sit on an asset of that value and not reap the rewards. And if they were to do that, they're not getting anything from Isak. So Newcastle don't win in that situation. Isak doesn't win in that situation. Liverpool don't win in that situation, but Liverpool have the options to go on to other players. If Isak was to stick around at Newcastle, that's then an Isak and a Newcastle problem, not a Liverpool problem. So yeah, I think this deal has been lined up for a while. I think Newcastle have probably been waiting to get the right targets in. Like I say, we saw only a couple of days ago that Newcastle had been putting a bid in for Jurgen Strand-Larsen and fell short of evaluation. They fell short of evaluation for Johan Visser. Sesko obviously chose Man United over Newcastle, which not sure about that decision, but looking at Man United and the way he played the other night against Grimsby, I know it's his sort of first start for the club, but even his substitute appearances for Man United, I don't think Sesko is of the level required to be a successful Premier League striker. He's going to score goals, obviously, he's a striker in the Premier League, but I don't think he's going to be deemed a success at the end of his reign. Obviously, they had João Pedro. They thought they had João Pedro in the bag, and Chelsea swooped in and took him. Liam Delap as well. They were in for him. So yeah, plenty of talk in the media around Newcastle and who they were going to bring in for this striker position. I think there's still potentially a chance that we do bring in Visser as the Callum Wilson backup. But to be honest, from what I saw from that William Ursula the other night, I actually thought he did quite well, and he's got experience in the Premier League. He made a few appearances last season as a sub. He's had a year of experience when he was at Sheffield United, when they got relegated. Granted, it was in a different type of team, challenging for different things, trying to stay in the division. But I actually think he's not a bad number two. And if you're looking for a Callum Wilson replacement, well, Callum Wilson didn't really get up to much last year. If Ursula was that man, I actually think he'll do better than Wilson did last year. So you're not really losing out on anything due to the fact that Callum Wilson was not really on it last year. That being said, look, Alexander Isak for Liverpool, I am under no illusions that he will need to get up to match speed, but he's going to be world class. He is world class player. He's going to score goals for us, especially. I think he might help out Salah as well. Salah's obviously struggled this season in terms of everything really. He's got the assist, he's got the goal, but in terms of his overall performance, I think it's been a little bit sort of, I don't want to say rusty. I think he is still feeling the effects of obviously what happened with Diogo in the summer. But I think having a striker like Alexander Isak, I think they can come up with, they can get a connection together. And when you've got a striker like Isak who knows where to be, Salah, that's what Salah wants. That's what Salah. I think Salah had that with Núñez. It's just Núñez couldn't put the ball in the back of the net where Alexander Isak can. So there it is. We will be signing Alexander Isak. The green light has been given by Newcastle. He will be a Liverpool player. It's just a matter of time. So keep an eye out on the Liverpool social media for the cheer with the Sweden flag. Let me know what you think in the comments. Look, I actually think we probably have overpaid a little bit for him. If it is a reported 140 million. But what I will say is, this late in the window, sometimes you've got to do that. I'd say Newcastle did the same thing with Nick Woltemade last night. I saw some reports that it was around 60 million euros, but I think Fab tweeted out that it's around 90 million euros. So again, for me, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. It's more than we paid for Hugo Ekitike. Now, if he comes in and he has an impact, then it's money well spent. But yeah, that 90 million that Newcastle have spent for Nick Woltemade is part of the Alexander Isak money, and Newcastle may even strengthen some more in this window. There's a few days left to go. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'll see you on the next one.